We're on the internet! Yeah! Yeah! Huh? Huh? Get your news on with Ron. Show hasn't started yet. People need to get up in here before a show starts. Just me right now, hanging out. On the internet. On the internet. Right? We're a little early today. We usually don't start until 10. A few minutes early. Getting the preamble over with. They tell you that the early bird gets the worm. Now, what they never focus on, the early worm gets eaten. Two sides to this. All I'm saying. Two sides to this. This is, I am a man who is seldomly punctual. So think about that. See what I did there? Let's see if anyone's here yet. What up, everybody? We got to stretch first. Absolutely. Good morning, Amars. I like the coffee emoji. I have the real coffee. Hey, what's up, Daniel? What's up, Balthazar? What's up, DLJ? What's up, Carolyn? It's 1 a.m. where you're at. Man, where are you at? Where's it 1 a.m. right now? What's up, Carolyn? Oh, good to see everybody. We're almost there. We're almost at 30. We'll start as soon as we hit 30. You know, that's the policy here. We officially start once we hit 30 people. I hope everybody is having a lovely Tuesday. Thank you, Matthew. That's very kind of you to say. Malaysia. Well, hello, Malaysia. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first. I'll do the thing in a minute. By the way, I hope you guys have been checking out the podcast. And if so, I hope you've been enjoying it. Please let me know your feedback. It's still very new, the podcast. We're 3 weeks old. But we're also over 30. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I'm Ron Placone. You guys know the drill. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles, which, by the way, start tweeting, you guys. Start tweeting me some articles at Ron Placone. We also use our Reddit subsection, and that's how we build the show. That's how we do this. And we're doing it right now. And I should probably pause the stream so it doesn't feedback here. All right. So here's where I want to go first. You know, we start with a question, and my question today kind of relates to what's the best way to put it? Like constructive cynicism. Wow, I could not talk this morning. Constructive cynicism versus giving the benefit of the doubt. So here's the for instance I would like to bring to your attention. Now, I have at times covered Richard Painter on the show. Who is Richard Painter? Richard Painter is a former ethics lawyer for George W. Bush, who since then has become a talking head on MSNBC, mostly about all things Russiagate, where, among other things, he tries to kind of whitewash the Bush administration and make it out like they were a bunch of Boy Scouts in comparison to Trump. This is Trump derangement syndrome at its finest. Whenever you are patting the backs of the Bush administration because Trump says mean things, that is Trump derangement syndrome at its finest. The Bush administration committed horrid war crimes. I personally think everybody in that administration should be in jail. Including Richard Painter, quite honestly. He was an ethics lawyer for that administration. He should be in jail too. Well, Ron, that sounds extreme. Does it? Does it? You think we might have less illegal war if we threw the entire administration in jail? And people that enabled them in jail, i.e. being an ethics lawyer in jail? Is that any less extreme than considering endless war just a business endeavor? considering it business as usual, accepting the fact that we can't have what countries poorer than us take for granted because of our war economy, and just accepting it, just thinking it's okay, while we kill women and children around the world, thinking that's okay. It's less extreme than that to say if you commit war crimes, horrid war crimes, the entire administration should be thrown in prison. I don't think it's less extreme than that. I don't think it's extreme at all. I think it's called justice. But Richard Painter is now running for U.S. Senate, and there's grumblings that he is actually quite progressive. And some people have... I've made videos about Richard Painter before. Some people in the comments have said, Ron, you're wrong on this one. He's a progressive. You are wrong. You're getting this one wrong. So, here's the thing. Is his Senate platform progressive? Yeah. Yeah, somewhat. However, while I am somebody who thoroughly believes that people are capable of change, and I also believe that it is very toxic to not permit people to change. I think that's the most toxic thing you can do to somebody, is to say you can't change. I firmly believe in all those things, absolutely. However, while I believe those things, that does not mean that I will naively believe and give the benefit of the doubt to anybody, especially when it comes to something like a vote or an endorsement. You see how those are two different things. Allowing a person to change, yes, I am all for that. However, naively just going along with anybody that parrots a few principles that I like, those are two very different things. If Karl Rove came out today and said, I'm a progressive now, I'd be skeptical. And I would hope that you'd be too. So let's get back to Richard Painter. One of the things Richard Painter talks about a lot is election reform. He wants to get money out of politics. And some of the people that have come at me on YouTube saying I was wrong about this one. And again, Chomsky said it. I was wrong before, I'll be wrong again. If it applies to Chomsky, it sure as hell applies to me. I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. However, in this case, you can't say I'm wrong or right. And I can't say you're wrong or right if you support this guy, because he hasn't won anything yet. We don't know how he'll be in office yet. We're just predicting. And my prediction is a little more cautious. So, Richard Painter's big thing, he talks about money in politics. Some of the people that have disagreed with me about him on YouTube have said, Ron, he wants to get all money out of politics. Well, let's go to his website and see if that's true. This is his website. This is Richard Painter for U.S. citizens. This is for U.S. Senate. Citizens, not CEOs, taking money out of politics. Okay, money out of politics is a rot that is growing. I agree. The disastrous Citizens United decision gave free rein to corporations and lobbyists to buy influence with politicians. Common sense solutions to most pressing issues, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's true. Fair enough. We did have dark money in politics before Citizens United, though. Citizens United just put it on steroids. But overturning Citizens United, which I am for, however, overturning it just gets us back to where we were in the early aughts. It does not take all money out of politics, all dark money and PAC money out of politics. In the Senate, Richard would take the following steps to eliminate the insidious influence of money in politics. He wouldn't eliminate money in politics. He would eliminate the insidious influence. Words are important, guys. It really is. Okay, so let's see what he would actually do. Via his own website, by the way. Introduce a bill requiring complete transparency of money in politics, including contributions to 501c3 organizations, 501c4, PACs, super PACs, and any dark money organizations engaging in communications intended to influence elections. Now, that information is already available. I guess the complete thing is the big part here. So, yeah, I mean, this kind of seems like a little bit of fluff, but I guess maybe it will strengthen existing policies. Okay, I'll give the benefit of the doubt there. Enact the taxation only with representation statute, giving the taxpayer the right to designate the first $200 of their taxes to the campaign of his or her choice. That's a little bit for the wealthy, don't you think? We live in a country where more than half of our citizens can't afford a $1,000 emergency. They can't afford to attend the funeral of a loved one if that funeral involves them taking a plane. Over half the country can't afford that. You know what that says to me? That says most of the country also can't afford to give $200 of their tax money to a campaign. So he wants to get dark money out of politics while simultaneously enacting a policy that would really only benefit the upper middle class at best, or the upper class. Upper middle class is being generous. It's also in some ways a farce because we really have no middle class. So this is bullshit. This is complete bullshit. And this shows how tone deaf this guy is when it comes to income inequality. That's what this shows. He's the progressive, though. Vote against the appointment of any Supreme Court nominee who will not, under oath, commit to overturning the decision on FEC versus Citizens United. That's good. I mean, that's good. But again, overturning Citizens United doesn't get all money out of politics. Okay. Provide funding to state legislators to organize and sponsor televised debates for both the primary and general election of all federal and statewide offices, as well as other offices at the discretion of the legislator. Because so many people are already watching C-SPAN. Gee, Richard, why don't you do something about radio? And while you're at it, why don't you distribute free 8-tracks to anybody who wants to catch up on the debates at their own time in their car? How about you make more stuff available online, Richard? Because that's where people get their information. If you weren't totally disconnected, you would know that. So his big thing, he wants to get money out of politics. Guess what? He doesn't even want to do that. He doesn't even want to do that. Does he support Medicare for all? Yeah, he does. But the big thing people point to with this guy, he wants to get money out of politics. He's done work on it before. He doesn't actually want to do it. He wants to overturn Citizens United. That just gets us back to where we were in the early 2000s. So what I'm saying is, you can't just parrot some principles I am about, and I'm just going to naively go, you got me, you win. You win. So based on the fact that this guy has pretty much been a grifter since Russiagate's been around, based on the fact that this guy has worked with the Bush administration and to my knowledge not apologized for it, in fact, if anything, he sugarcoats what they actually were. Based on all of that, years of work, the fact that he's parroting a few progressive platforms right now is not enough for me to say, yeah, you win. So if I lived in Minnesota, I would not vote for him. If I did not have an actual progressive option, I would leave it blank. And if you disagree with me, you have every right. Go out and vote for him. You have every right to do that. And if he wins, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And, you know, maybe you think I'm being too cynical. Maybe I am. But again, based on all of the evidence, I'm making my calculation based on this behavior, the past behavior, and his own website. If you are for him, what are you basing your analysis on? The fact that he parroted a few progressive platforms. That's it. Again, if this was some centrist that kind of was like, you know what, I'm kind of seeing things a little differently. I'm talking to more of my colleagues in the Bernie wing, quote unquote. They love to use that term now, the Bernie wing. And I've changed on a few things. That's one thing. That's a little different. But this guy was in the Bush administration. He was a Republican up until recently. Really? You're buying it? if you're in Minnesota and you're totally sold on this guy, if he wins, I really hope you're right and I'm wrong. But I don't share that naivety. And if you're totally convinced by Richard Painter, and you're in Minnesota, be careful if anybody ever offers you some oceanfront property in Minnesota. They're lying to you. Just so you know. Just so you know. So I guess my big question is, how do we draw that line between constructive cynicism and worthwhile caution and realistic caution and not allowing people to change and not giving them the benefit of the doubt? Because there is that line. There is that line, and crossing it one way or the other is not good. Right? I mean, if you never give anyone the benefit of the doubt, if you never allow people to change, if you never, that's bad too. But again, if Karl Rove was like, I think single payer is a good thing, and everyone's like, yeah, I mean, really? You think he's not lying? Come on. And you guys see the difference, right? Now, granted, Richard Painter is not Karl Rove. I'll concede there. But you get it via analogy's sake, right? It's not like Richard Painter was some center-left dude that was maybe active in Move On or something like that, and then he realized, blue no matter who, we really got to have a strong platform. It's not enough to just be less severe than the Republicans, and I'm going to the left, and I'm signing a pledge to not accept any corporate money anymore. That's different. That person, I mean, it's just a little more believable, but somebody, I think you know where I'm going. So let's see what you guys are saying. Jennifer points out, if he was a man of his convictions, he would have tried to fight for money out of politics before, during, and after when he worked for Bush. Chuck E. Cheese pointed out, C-SPAN releases all their videos online, and they are usually pretty fast. It's not a pretty sure, but it functions well. I still can't believe I'm the only person that watches it. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad C-SPAN does that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying... I'm just saying it's a bit tone deaf to be like, we're going to televise more of this stuff. It's already available. People aren't watching it. Maybe if you really stood for something, and I'm not singling out Richard Painter in this, for instance, but maybe if people really stood for something, more people would watch. Jonathan Arnsberry, Ron, you are right to be skeptical. Propaganda, Ron can smell the bullshit. We need purity tests. They are not bad. No PAC money, no donations over $100 from an individual, or how about a 1-month-only election cycle? Chris, I agree with you, but you know what? Let's not call them purity tests anymore. Let's not let people throw that in our face and call it a purity test, because you know what? It's not a purity test. It's a job expectation, and a reasonable one at that. It's not purity. Purity is whether or not your elected official would rescue a cat out of a tree if it saw the cat and had 10 minutes to spare and could go to Chipotle and get lunch or rescue the cat out of the tree. That's a purity test. And they might be like, you know what, I'm freaking starving. I'm going to get my burrito first and hopefully that cat's still okay. That's purity. It's not purity, quote unquote, to say I'm an elected official. I'm serving the people that voted for me, not the people that gave me money or didn't give me money because I didn't take it in the first place. My principles and my positions aren't up for sale. I'm here to serve the people first, and that is what I am paid to do. And I get a reasonable salary for my work. And God knows I get a good health plan and a good vacation schedule. So those are where my principles lie. They lie with the people that voted for me. That's not a purity test. That's a reasonable job expectation. And if people, I mean, we wouldn't tolerate it in any other industry. We wouldn't tolerate it if a server served you a cup of coffee with spit in the coffee because somebody gave them $30 to do it. Would you tolerate that? Would you write them a positive Yelp review? Would you be like, well, I guess I don't want to apply a purity test to you. Somebody bribed you to spit in my coffee, and I that's fair. I get it. You're human. No, you'd say you didn't do your job. Your job is to serve the customer and to not, knowingly serve them something tainted. And you just did it because someone offered you money. That's corrupt. You deserve to be fired. We have higher expectations for our servers than we do for our politicians. And I'm not bashing servers. That is a difficult job. My girlfriend is a server. A lot of my friends are in the service industry. That is the hardest job in the world. I could not do it for a day. Literally, I would get fired in the middle of my first shift. I do not know how. And if any of you guys, I'm sure some of you are servers, I don't know how you multitask the way you do. I have no idea how you do that. You guys see me scrolling on a timeline. You think I could last an hour on a busy lunch shift or a busy dinner shift? Hell no, I couldn't. So this is by no means, a thing against servers. It's just we have such a higher bar for people in the service industry that are making a lot less than an elected official. And I would argue working every bit as hard, if not harder. For sure, more than most people in office. And they have a, quote, purity test that we don't apply to our politicians. How backwards is that? That's completely backwards. Balthazar, I'm not voting for Jared Polis for Colorado governor or Diane Mish Bush for Colorado 3 because Jared voted for Bush tax cut extension while being worth $400 million, and Bush touts Ken Salazar endorsement, mealy mouth. All right. So yeah, and I don't know if any of you I don't know if any of you are in Minnesota. And again, I'm not trying. If you're convinced by Richard Painter, you have the right to make that judgment call. All I'm saying is proceed with a lot of caution. And if you're asking me my take on it, I'm not convinced. I would not vote for him. I know their primary state. I would not cast a vote for Richard Painter in this entire election cycle. I just don't have that kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if, I don't want to say naivety, because that's kind of, but I guess naivety is the best word that comes to mind. And you know what? If he gets into office and starts enacting a bunch of progressive policies and really goes against defense budgets, and maybe makes a statement and says, I was really wrong. I surrounded myself with some really terrible people. And I'm trying to make up for it now. Then, I might be like, yeah, he did change. The guy did change. And all power to him. He really changed. I still wouldn't feel bad for not believing it out the gate. I really wouldn't. But as of right now, I do not trust that guy. I don't trust that guy. All right. Daniel says he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. All right. let's move on here. So our first, this comes from Daniel, and it's about the Koch brothers. Let me adjust that a little bit so it's easier for you guys to see. There we go. Not perfect, but I'll take it. All right. The Koch brothers commissioned a survey of Americans and found most like a $15 hour minimum wage, free college, and universal health care. During the month of July, the marketing and communication group in pursuit of, oh, that's what it's called. In pursuit of. Who decided that wasn't a real shitty name? In pursuit of. What do you call it? In pursuit of. In pursuit of what? In pursuit of. Like, if in pursuit of was on a t-shirt, people would be like, they would look at the back. Like, where's the rest of the shirt? There's got to be more to this. It can't just be in pursuit of. What a dumb name. Who would think that fringe right-wing billionaires wouldn't be creative? Everybody. Everybody would expect that. That's why their groups have shitty names. In pursuit of. What the hell? It's so dumb. They have so many random dark money, think tank, fringe, right-wing propaganda groups, though. Eventually, they're just going to get lazy. It's just the two of them being like, what should we name this one? And then one of them goes, we have enough money. Shouldn't we just stop and, just live our lives? And they're like, no, what should we name this shitty group? And the other one goes, in pursuit of, I don't know. This is... Like, what if they just quit one day? Like they could quit tomorrow and still be rich for the rest of their lives. Like what kind of sociopath do you have to be? I mean, that's the most disturbing thing about the Koch brothers. They could just quit tomorrow, be rich, have more money than they could ever need. And instead, they put all this work and energy and money into hurting poor people, stopping public transportation from happening, brutal immigration. I mean, what the hell? Like, what's wrong with you? Anyway. Alright, so this is some shitty group they launched in 2017. Alright, so the poll was later written up by Real Clear Politics, which spun the results as favorable to the Koch network. Real Clear Politics noted that on a set of vague values questions, Americans appeared to take conservative or libertarian side of political arguments. For instance, Real Clear Politics noted that the survey found that 86% of Americans said the right to personal property is key to a free and just society. Okay, sure. Yeah, that's really some fringe right-wing libertarian idea in contemporary America, or contemporary United States even. Property, ownership. Really? You think that if you're... The only people that think you can buy a house are fringe right-wing people? You really believe that, Real Clear Politics? Okay. Mostly left out of the Real Clear Politics write-up is the fact that the poll also surveyed Americans in detail on a number of issues they felt would help them overcome social barriers, and found that Americans are quite favorable to a set of policies that the Koch network opposes. Where the Koch brothers see government tyranny... Unbelievable tyranny. Having programs that most of the industrialized world takes for granted. And the Koch world is tyranny. Okay. Most Americans see common sense solutions to basic problems. Healthcare reform that puts doctors and patients in charge. 50%. Enforcing rights for all. 53%. Lowering taxes to getting government spending under control. 55%. Now, does that include the bombs? That's an important side note there. Does that include the military-industrial complex and the war economy? Encouraging science. Wow, 49%. That's surprising, coming from a Koch-funded thing. Public safety. Now, that could be code for ICE, so 44% are cool with that. Stopping government picking winners and losers and instead letting individuals decide what products or businesses succeed. I don't even know what the fuck that means. That is so vague. That is so vague and pointed. Granting families the freedom and means to choose the school that is the best fit. All right, so that's code for charter schools and helping, taking public money away from schools. Oh, and only 39% favor that. So it seems like maybe they saw through this bullshit too. Preparing ex-offenders to re-enter society as law-abiding and productive citizens. Ending the cronyism that leads to corporate welfare, 37%. Ending harsh sentences, all right. Government-paid college tuition, 35%. $15 in minimum wage, 35%. That's not great. But then other people think it's a somewhat solution. A very small percent think it's not a solution at all, only 28%. So more overall, 35% and 30% favor it. Freer trade, more regulation of Wall Street. Over 60% total favor more regulation of Wall Street on a Koch study. Same with increasing government assistance for childcare. It's just like when Fox and Friends, 73% of Fox and Friends viewers think that Medicare for all is the way to go. Populism's on the rise. Populism is on the rise. And I also gave this a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. Ajit Pai is facing the hot seat. Congress is set to grill the FCC's chairman for falsely claiming his agency was hit with a cyber attack. Here's how it could affect the war over net neutrality. You guys know that net neutrality is an issue near and dear to my heart. You know that I'm fighting for municipal broadband in my community in Pasadena. Municipal broadband, for anyone that hasn't heard me talk about it before, it basically takes the internet out of the corporate hands, out of the hands of AT&T, out of the hands of Comcast, and puts it in the hands of the public. You would pay your internet bill the same way you pay for your garbage or your water or your electric. You would just pay the city. Other cities that have done this experience the fastest internet in the country at a reasonable price, i.e. Chattanooga, Tennessee, i.e. Longmont, Colorado, i.e. Fort Collins, Colorado is working on it. And I'm trying to get it in my community. And Ajit Pai, of course, is the FCC chairman that overturned net neutrality. But he's facing some heat. All right, so let's get a quick snapshot of this. FCC chairman Ajit Pai should expect some tough questions at a Senate hearing this week. I hope so. Last week, the agency's inspector general released a report into an incident last year in which the FCC servers became unavailable during the comment period over Pai's repeal of net neutrality's rules. At the time of the outage, Pai and the FCC told Congress and the public that it had been caused by a cyber attack. The report found no evidence to back that assertion. In fact, investigators believed agency officials made false statements to Congress and referred the case to federal prosecutors. The incident could play into a court case filed by activists seeking to overturn Pai's repeal. All right, so he's going to be in the hot seat this week, as well he should be, Ajit Pai. The chairman of the Federal Communications Commission is set to testify Thursday in front of a Senate Oversight Committee. He's certain to have to respond to questions while there about false statements he and some of his subordinates made to lawmakers about an incident last year in which the agency's computer systems got overwhelmed during the comment period for its then ongoing net neutrality proceeding. Now keep in mind, this happened the first time too. The first time they came after net neutrality, while Tom Wheeler was head of the FCC, Obama was the president. People commented so much during the FCC open comment period that the website crashed. And, to be fair, that was largely thanks to a John Oliver segment. Pai has tried to distance himself from those false statements, blaming them on the agency's former chief information officer, David Bray. But lawmakers are sure to want to know when Pai knew the statements were false and why he didn't retract them earlier. Perhaps more importantly, lawmakers may well try to delve into the role the incident played in Pai's effort to overturn the FCC's net neutrality ruling. and the incident and Pai's answers about it could factor into ongoing court battle over his repeal of those rules. Net neutrality is at the heart of the current controversy. As you probably know by now, net neutrality... Alright, so we already know. After proposing his repeal last year, Pai followed agency protocol and opened up his proposal to public comment. In May of last year, comedian John Oliver made the repeal effort the focus of one of the episodes of his show, Last Week Tonight. Oliver supports net neutrality, explained in this episode. Okay. So in the end of the episode, he encouraged viewers to go to the website. Immediately after, the FCC's comment system saw a spike in traffic. Same thing that happened in 2015. So they're saying it was a cyber attack, and it wasn't. It was just they got a bunch of comments. The FCC wasn't hit with an attack and wasn't in 2014. But the situation is worse than that for Pai and his agency. So it's not enough that there wasn't an actual attack. That was a lie. The investigation found that FCC officials had little basis for making their statements. So they just totally lied. In fact, the paucity of evidence for the attack was so clear so early on, the investigation quickly swiveled from being an inquiry into a cyber attack into an examination of whether and why FCC officials misled Congress. Probably because more people were commenting in favor of net neutrality, and it was abundantly obvious via their own website that they were thumbing their nose in the face of public opinion by repealing net neutrality. So now we question, could the pivot be made that this tampered and tarnished the entire process? Because the FCC does have an obligation to the public, at least we're told that in theory. So was this tampering with information that would have affected a potential repeal? I think the case could be made that it could be. I mean, we all know that the government does not take public opinion into account. We do know that. A Princeton study revealed that to us. However, when the corruption was so much on the surface, a court of law can step in a case like this and say, you tarnished what is supposed to be a democratic and transparent process. You tarnished it by sabotaging your own website. So we'll follow up on this on Thursday. We will for sure follow up on this on Thursday. So, one other thing I want to say before we move on from net neutrality. Sorry, I'm scrolling the timeline. So, and Joe, make this a separate clip. You know, we talked about how we wanted to be more active on the show. And we wanted to focus on people that are doing activist things too, not just focused on electoral politics. Because it just broadens the stuff we talk about and broadens our conversation, and it's, engaging and fun. And so I really thought about that the day after we talked about that on the show, and I've started a task force in my community for municipal broadband, and it's focused mostly in my community in Pasadena, but I'm trying to branch it out to all of Southern California. And I just kind of started a Facebook group, and I'm going to distribute tasks, and everybody's going to have a task, and it's all about us getting a proposal to the city in Pasadena. So if you're in Southern California and you want to get involved, email me. If you're not in Southern California and you want to get involved, start your own task force, and I am happy to share all the resources I have going forward. And when I say going forward, I mean like I'm still at the beginning of this too. So, but everything I get, I'm happy to share. Everything that we do, I'm happy. Similar to how I've been doing it so far. I've, documented my trips to city council. I documented when we got it on a municipal agenda. I documented what happened after it was on that municipal agenda. You have the footage from me at the city halls. So that's been the process so far. Now, because the city has not been as embracing as I would have liked, because the municipal agenda said we couldn't afford it. That was their conclusion. We can't afford it. So let's just rely on AT&T and Spectrum. They completely ignored the whole issue of net neutrality. So now my next step is starting a task force to get a real proposal to the city. And then if they still are unwilling to move and unwilling to work with us, then we got to go directly to the voters and try to get it on a ballot while bypassing city officials. Simultaneously, I'm hoping to have some people run. Again, the task force is still in its infancy, but I have started a municipal internet task force for Southern California. If you're in Southern California and you're interested, email me, ronplacone.com. Email me. If you're interested in starting something similar in your community, wherever it is, please email me so we can keep in contact. So I can kind of start some type of information exchange where we can exchange our ideas, exchange our progress, and learn from each other's struggles. Because this is going to be a struggle. And we can also learn from each other's mistakes along the way, because I'm going to make them. I'm going to make mistakes along the way. Chances are anyone else will too. Right? So anyway, I wanted to let you guys know about that. And if this is of interest, please email me at ronplacone.com. All right, back to the news. Yay! Let's see here. Oh, man, you guys, there's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of stuff. All right, this is from Long Beach, and this goes to a specific race. Just give it a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. Howard admits to lying about degree, but says she won't quit the race. Okay, so what is this? District 73 State House candidate Melissa Howard admitted Monday to lying about having a degree from Miami University, apologized, and said she won't quit the race. All right, candidate for House District 73, and I'm honestly not sure where this is. I don't even know where this is. Wow, this article is kind of horrible. This is like not loading at all. Look at this. Okay, so I guess that's the skinny of it. Let's try to find out where this is. Herald Tribune. Oh, it's in Florida. Sarasota, Florida. Okay. So this is in Florida. Melissa Howard lied about having a degree from Miami University and apologized, but said she won't quit the race. All right. Cool. Hopefully our next article loads. All right, this is from Tim. This looks like it might be some good news. Jury awards terminally ill man $289 million in lawsuit against Monsanto. Yep, sounds like good news. Oh, and cool, there's an article here. We can read it. At 42, Dwayne Johnson developed a bad rash that was eventually diagnosed as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. 4 years later, Johnson, now near death, according to his doctors, has been awarded a staggering sum of $280 million in damages in a case against agriculture giant Monsanto. The former school groundskeeper sued the company, arguing that a herbicide in the weed killer Roundup likely caused the disease. His lawyers also contended Monsanto failed to warn consumers about the alleged risks from their product. On Friday, a San Francisco jury agreed. They deliberated for 3 days before awarding Johnson $250 million in punitive damages and $39 million in compensatory damages. The jury found Monsanto acted with malice and oppression because they knew what they were doing was wrong and doing it with reckless disregard for human life, said Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one of Johnson's attorneys. This should send a strong message to the boardroom of Monsanto. Great. Johnson's is the first of hundreds of cancer patient cases against Monsanto and could be a bellwether of what lies ahead for the company. This is NPR's Bill Chappell reporting. Claims against Monsanto received a boost in 2015 when the Internal Agency for Research on Cancer, part of the World Health Organization, announced that 2 pesticides, including glyphosate, are probably carcinogenic to humans. Monsanto is now facing hundreds of lawsuits, many of which were filed after that 2015 announcement. Dozens of suits were joined to be heard in the court of U.S. District Judge Vince Cabrera, who, even as he allowed the case to proceed, sent the plaintiffs a fear to face a daunting challenge in supporting their claims at the next phase of the case. Well, this guy got $280 million. And that is amazing news. Now, what's not amazing, obviously, is the fact that all the money in the world cannot give this man his life back. And he will likely not be with us much longer. I mean, this man's 46 years old. He does not look 46 years old. And he looks in incredibly bad health. And it's because he was exposed to something, and the disclaimer was not there, and now he's dying. He didn't have the right to a safe working environment in the richest country in the world. And because of Monsanto's greed and corruption, he had no way of knowing until it was too late. It is awesome that he has been awarded $289 million. And I hope that other lawsuits are successful against Monsanto, and I hope it puts them out of business. And I hope some of the people at the top end up in jail. Because that's where they belong. And hopefully this gives some solace to his family. Because I'm sure it gives him some peace of mind knowing that, yeah, my life is over. But at least my family and my loved ones will never want now. So hopefully that gives him some peace. So, I mean, it's very bittersweet in some ways. Because, yeah, I mean, this man isn't going to get his life back. You know, you don't get your life back. All right. Thank you for sharing that. And as Tim points out, hopefully this is more to come. Hopefully this is the start. Now, Jordan has sent something to annoy all of us. Jordan wants to piss us off. And Jordan, I'm all about it. Let's get the blood boiling. Jordan has a disclaimer here, and that disclaimer is super condescending article from Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness. They're doing everything they can to help. And this is condescending by their standards. So get ready to get pissed. Jordan already read it. He's pissed. Oh, God. Even just the title of this. Yes. All right. This is going to piss us off. This is one of those opinion pieces meant to piss us off. That should be a new segment on Get Your News On with Ron. Feel free to start using that hashtag. Hashtag opinion pieces meant to piss us off. But anyway, here it is. You have to hand it to the Green Party. I should read it like that. All right. So this is by Elizabeth Brunning. Were the Greens the spoilers yet again? So you might think, reading about Tuesday's special election in the vacant Ohio 12th congressional seat, in which Republican Troy Balderson is ahead of Democratic opponent Danny O'Connor by the slimmest of margins, a mere 1,754 votes as of early Thursday. All right, this is getting tired. And so comes the familiar trope. Had it not been for the dastardly hippies voting green, Balderson's victory margin would have been far smaller. Just 627 votes, assuming that all 1,127 green voters would have opted for O'Connor. That tiny margin would have triggered an automatic recount under Ohio law. Election officials will begin counting. Okay, so this is just about the counting of it. All right. So this actually isn't as condescending so far as I thought it was going to be. Yet the ritual bonfire of the Greens always ends up reminding me of everything I like about them. If you feel the cold sting of dread contemplating whether your local Greens will manfully choke down their principles and vote Democratic when election years roll around, consider the fact that Greens live in that existential anxiety all the time. Okay. The fact that the United States two-part duopoly, in conjunction with limited ballot access and a first-past-the-post voting system, severely circumscribes citizens' democratic choices is, in fact, one of the Green Party's major areas of complaint. One solution to the routine panic over tortured lesser of two evils voting options is hoping that, with enough discipline, all third-party voters will wise up and vote red or blue. An actual solution is something like ranked choice voting, also called instant runoff, coupled with wider ballot access for third-party candidates. Lo and behold, a major plank in the Green Platform. The Green Platform is full of such significant stuff, which at least deserves the pretext of acknowledgement as distinct from its Democratic counterpart, as inconvenient as ideological commitments might be. Greens, for example, heard that work that takes place outside the labor market is of real... Okay. They support single-payer health care, free public university. All right. They were keen on it before it was cool. All right, so this kind of shifted tones. I mean, it's almost like she kind of wanted to set up a certain T and then sort of took it to a different place. Voting in a democracy is tactical, but it's also expressive, a way of communicating one's preferences to the organs of government. Greens voting green may sometimes, in some cases, be taking a tactical risk, but it is their prerogative to let interested parties know what sort of policies might capture their votes. And there's something about this adamancy I love, perhaps despite myself. Okay, now we're getting back to, oh, they're just too ideal. No, that's not ideal. That's called participating in a democracy. All right, I don't like this sentence. I don't like the sentence, and there's something about this adamancy I love, perhaps despite myself. All right, American democracy is and has for some time been ailing under a miasma of corruption, deceit, and an extraordinary concentration of wealth in the hands of a few donors. With that understood, children in Camden, Cajun... All right. It's admirable that, for the Greens, the answer to all this is still more and better democracy. There's something romantic in that. No, it's not more and better democracy. It's actual democracy. What they're calling for is a real democratic process. That's what they're calling for. It's not more and better democracy. So it's almost like she laid out all the problems about why the Greens are doing what they do and saying that it makes sense why they're doing it. However, they're being idealistic and naive. I am not green myself, and I'm not sure if I buy that. But I do think it is a privilege to approach the end still believing in something. Oh, really? So if this opinion piece just had the middle, I think it was an awesome piece of journalism. I mean, they're basically... The theme of this article is, it'd be nice to have democracy, but man, are you naive. And I don't know if I buy it. Then why do you vote at all? Why do you even try? Why do you write an opinion piece? I mean, why... Am I missing something? It's like she started in this weird condescending place. Then all of a sudden it was almost like she was sort of turning the tables and being like, actually, you know what, establishment? Maybe it's time for you to go. And then she went back to like, but how naive. Am I missing something? Did I get it? It's my first time reading this. So maybe I missed something. And I am skimming it in real time. But am I off? Let me see what you guys are saying. Brian says, shit the bed at the end. Policy is crafted one funeral at a time via Martha Blythe. It's WAPO. What do you expect? Fair enough. The only thing I'm handing the writer of this article... that's harsh. She should have titled this piece, "Oh well." Yeah. Pretty much, oh well. Like, hey, so the Greens, they want an actual democratic process. And they have a plan for getting there. And they support great policies. And lesser of two evils, that's not going to get us anywhere. But, man, how naive is it to think we can do any better? Yeah, that's pretty lame. That's pretty lame. All right. Cool. But I'll be honest, it was less condescending than I expected it to be. To try to put a positive on it. It was less condescending than I expected it to be. We are almost out of time, and we have a bunch of articles, and I'm not going to get to all of them because we got time for one more. Let's see here. So I'll try to... I know some of you guys sent multiple things, so I'm going to pick someone that hasn't had an article yet today because I don't want to... I want to make sure we hear from as many people as possible. I'm not going to get to everybody, but I'm doing the best I can. All right, so this is from Mike. And we'll end on this. And you may have heard about this already. I've heard about this. Deeply disturbing. For second time this year, Facebook suspends left-leaning Telesur English without explanation. But I thought if you weren't spreading lies and misinformation and calls to violence like Alex Jones, you had nothing to worry about. I thought all the people that are okay with Facebook's corporate personhood when it affects somebody they don't like, all the people on the left defending Silicon Valley's right to thumb their nose at free speech principles because it involves Alex Jones, somebody they don't like, somebody I don't like, somebody who, again, could have lost in a free speech court battle. He might have lost. But again, let the court decide, not Mark Zuckerberg and his friends. If the court would have ruled Alex Jones violated the First Amendment, Alex Jones violated free speech laws. This is libel. This is incite to violence. All of the factors that aren't protected by First Amendment. That'd be different. Those would be two different things. But let a court of law decide. Let a constitutional lawyer decide. Not Mark Zuckerberg and his friends. Because guess what else they decide? They decide to suspend Tell Us Our English without explanation. For the second time this year, Facebook has suspended Tell Us Our English's page, claiming the left-leaning Latin American news network violated their terms of service. Vague terms of service that they don't have to answer to anyone. Facebook did not provide an explanation. Your page has been removed for violating our terms of use. Pages that are hateful, threatening, or obscene are not allowed. We also take down pages that attack an individual or group, or that are set up by an unauthorized individual. See how vague that is? Attack an individual or group. So a critique of an oppressive government could be seen as attacking an individual or group. You see how it can be interpreted that way? Meanwhile, the principles of free speech are much more specific. You have to truly incite violence, and somebody applying contemporary community standards would conclude that that's what you're doing. It has to not be satirical. It has to not be parody at all. You see what I mean? You see how vague this is compared to our actual free speech principles? It's so vague in comparison. Attack an individual or group. Hateful, threatening, or obscene. So vague in comparison to our actual free speech principles. That's why it doesn't just happen to someone like an Alex Jones. It happens to Tell Us Our English. It happens to Palestinian peace groups. And yet there's still people who celebrate this. Who celebrates Facebook's ability to do this, even though they're pretty much a public utility at this point as far as their reach goes. They're not a public utility in business mode. They're a private company, and that needs to change. That needs to change. Because they are the online public town square. They should have to abide by First Amendment principles. And people celebrate their private corporatehood, people on the left, because it hurt Alex Jones. People are that tribal. They're ignoring that. It hurt all these other people too. It's hurting Tell Us Our English too. It's hurting Abby Martin too. It's hurting peace activists too. How tribal can you get that you can't see the bigger picture? Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that article. And yes, as of now, Tell Us Our English is down. I believe Abby Martin's been affected as well. No explanation given as of the recording of this. Let's go to the chat, see what you guys are saying. This just in, unknown billionaire Pepsi sisters to become major donors to the DNC from a statement by Tom Fossil Fuel Perez. This is via Balthazar. Democracy dies in darkness. That's why we have the CIA redacting everything. I like it. Guys, we're totally out of time. We are totally out of time. Thank you so much for being part of this. Shout out to our sponsors real quick before we go. BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp.com provides online therapy. What you do, you go to their website, you fill out a form, you're matched up with a counselor. They provide affordable online therapy sessions. I know a lot of people don't have the best health coverage in the world. I know I have a terrible healthcare plan. I know a lot of those plans don't cover psychiatric help or counseling. It doesn't cover any of that. Or if it covers it, it's just a little bit and you're still paying a super high price to go get the help you might need. Well, BetterHelp.com offers an affordable alternative to that. We talk about mental health on this show. If you think you need help, get it. Do not wait. Get it. Do not mess around if you think you need help. That is something I will definitively say. Get it. And if you think BetterHelp.com could help you, Check it out. Fill out a form. ZT.com, ZHIT.com. Their tea. It kind of rules. If you're in Austin, Texas, check them out in person. If you're not, check them out online. Their tea's awesome. Guys, seriously, I've been obsessed with their teas. Those are our sponsors. There you go. Guys, this has been Get Your News On with Ron. If you want to support us on the sustainability end, patreon.com/Ron Placone. Pay what you can model. Get all kinds of exclusive content and perks. And my album. Also, November 2nd, Sacramento, California. November 3rd, San Francisco, California. November 23rd, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Los Angeles, next Politics Night at the Dojo, August 30th. The lineup is fantastic. Tweet at me if you want to get on the list for that. August 30th, 8 p.m. at Sycamore Tavern, right on Sunset. Free parking. I love you all very much. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. And tomorrow at 10 a.m., we're going to have Josh Androsky on the show, and he's going to talk about public banking. So we're having a public banking guest on the show. So get your questions ready for public banking. We're going to be talking about the issue. We're going to be talking about how they're bringing it to the masses, how they're promoting it, what initiatives they have going on. It's going to be fun. Get your questions ready for it. That happens at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. Stay safe out there. Until tomorrow, guys.